So if you think of these 1,000 minutes as a piggy bank, and it's filled with 1,000 magical coins, how are you going to spend them? Are you spending those minutes on things that bring you joy, that foster good health, that are fulfilling? We experience 1,000 waking minutes on average every day. How are you spending yours? I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and you're listening to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I can't wait to connect with you here with practical ways to eat well, move daily, and be healthy, to optimize every waking minute you live for a happier, healthier life. Thank you for sharing some of your waking minutes with me today. Let's get started.
I'm saying yes to better days, yes. I'm on my way, yes. It's gonna be okay, yeah.
Hello and welcome to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, your host and guide on this journey to make the most of our daily lives, becoming more aware of our choices that we make during our 1,000 waking minutes on average each day. I'm excited about this episode today. It means a lot to me. How often do you think about the time that we have each day? Not just the hours, but the actual minutes. We've all heard the saying that time is money, but I like to think of it a little differently, with a little bit of a twist. Time is life's currency, for sure, and each minute that we're awake is sort of like a coin that we get to spend. I think of it like a gem, even. And the question is, how are you spending yours? So today's episode is about the title of the podcast, the why behind this podcast, and getting grounded in why I think it's an important concept to me and to invite you. So it's really for us to explore and discover this together. So why did I choose to call this podcast 1,000 Waking Minutes? Well, it comes down to a bit of math with a whole lot of meaning for me. We all have 1,440 minutes in a given day, in a 24-hour period. Every single one of us has the same amount of minutes every day. If we're getting the recommended, which I know some of us aren't, and we certainly aren't every night, but if we get the recommended 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, and I certainly hope you are, and we'll talk about ways to perhaps craft our days toward good health. We know that our health can be supported, our rest can be beneficial and more restorative. But if you take out the 7 to 8 hours, that's about 440 minutes, or specifically, it's about 7.33 hours, give or take. So that leaves us with about 1,000 waking minutes to live our lives each day. These are life's currency. These are our waking minutes, our times to be active, to connect, to nourish our bodies and our minds, to work, to do, to be, and to pursue what really matters to us. So this is sort of came to me at some point years ago. I was teaching classes and I was thinking about our time. And I've always valued time as something important. You know, if you give me your time or share time with me, I value that, knowing that we live busy, hectic lives and we've got a lot going on. But I always think that we're all wanting to better ourselves and better humanity, perhaps, in the process as well. So if you think of these 1,000 minutes as a piggy bank, and it's filled with 1,000 magical coins, and these are magical coins you get to spend every day. How are you going to spend them? Are you spending those minutes on things that bring you joy, that foster good health, that are fulfilling? How many are spent purposefully on work or necessary errands that keep you moving forward in life? How many sort of slip away in autopilot and are lost to the daily grind? So that's the simple math. That's where it came from. And I could end the episode right there. I guess I told you the why, but I want to explore it even further on how we can capture that and why and how we can have lots and lots to talk about in the time ahead, and how I hope it's a connection point where we can expose our vulnerabilities to each other, our wins, and celebrate our successes together, and more. So, by explaining the math, we have 1,440 minutes in a day, minus those 7 to 8 hours of sleep if we're optimizing health through the kind of sleep we get. And it leaves us about those 1,000 waking minutes. A few more examples. And later, I'll be encouraging you to check your own days. I have a task to do. Won't be too hard, and hopefully, it'll be a great exploration, focusing on the positive and identifying some pain points as well. But we're going to check our own days and where we're actually spending our 1,000 waking minutes. Think about an 8-hour workday. So some of the things are non-negotiable, right? 8 hours of work is 480 minutes. You automatically have to subtract that out, and it leaves about 520 minutes. It's more than I even thought when I first did that math. I thought, oh my gosh, well, 8 hours are spent working. Think about maybe a 10-hour workday. Maybe that includes your commute, or maybe you work longer hours or longer yet. But that 10-hour workday is 600 minutes, and it leaves 400 minutes to make up that 1,000 waking minutes where other things are happening. Think about errands and prep. How many hours do you spend or want to spend or can commit to that? Is that 2 hours or 120 minutes? So we start by having our piggy bank full, and then we start allotting our spending of our coins on a daily basis. I think that this sort of gets to the idea of mindful living in a matter of sense without the woo woo. We can go there, but really it's the practical part of being present in the moment with the expectation of a tomorrow, with planning and building in, not as if this is your last day, how would you spend it? But this is one of many days we're stringing together. And how will we be capturing these minutes in our lives? I believe that by being more aware of how we spend our minutes, we can start to make small and meaningful changes that add up to big differences in our lives. So I like to start where we're at and figure out what we want to do, prioritize, figure out what we've got before us before we start trying to insert something or overhaul anything, because that's almost a recipe for failure. We got to know what lies in front of us before we can navigate change. So imagine if just a few minutes each day were redirected from mindless scrolling, for example, to take a quick walk outside, or from a rushed meal that you might be taking at your desk to a mindful meal, maybe in the company of a colleague or a friend. Um, think about the small shifts over time, the ways we can transform the moments that we're and minutes that we're already spending, and how we experience our days. And the cool thing is, you're likely doing some of these things already, but you may not be fully aware of them. And at times, our daily routine just seems to unfold in front of us. I want to bring us to a point of awareness so that we can capture and see more where we're spending that time. So, again, let's think about 1,000 waking minutes like this. You've got your bank account, you've got 1,000 coins. This is not a dollar system. These are not pennies. These are not euros or yen. They're magical coins, and they represent precious time. They're deposited in the bank every single morning when you wake. You can spend them however you want, but once the day is over and your head hits the pillow for sleep, the coins disappear until the next waking day. How would you spend them if you knew they were the only ones you had for the day? How would you invest in things today that make you happy, healthy, and fulfilled? Or would you let them slip away on some things that don't really matter? Some of both, perhaps, and I think that happens to most of us. What's the balance between those? So, thinking about every minute being a choice, it's a chance to invest in our health, our relationships, and our passions. And while we can't be perfect, no one is. we can be a little more intentional about how we spend this precious currency called time. So I thought, in the pursuit of sharing and still getting my feet wet in this whole new forum called a podcast, I thought I would share a little bit of a personal story about time. I have a very dear friend of a couple decades plus who recently passed. Um, I loved when we connected over calls. We didn't live close, not too far, but it was a flight and a drive. Um, we would have calls and video visits, and we'd be in person when we could. But we would have marvelous discussions about life, health, what we were interested in, concerned about, troubled with the world, the wondrous things we observed in the world. It just sort of, it wasn't rambling, it was meandering. And then sometimes we would discuss, many times in fact, what are you reading? What books or articles have you been looking at? What have you been listening to in terms of presenters or podcasts or stories that we've been hearing or um, revisiting from our lives and those of others? So I've always loved sort of watching time. I know this causes some anxiety in others. I'm not talking about waking up in the middle of the night, distressed about when the alarm's going to go off. I've had those moments too. What time is it now? How many more minutes of sleep do I get? But watching time pass in certain contexts, allowing time and watching it sort of creep and even rush at times past, and I think that nothing shows how time passes better than an hourglass. So, my friend, back to my friend for a second, he was an avid reader, a worldly thinker. He was engaged human in business, wildly successful in his endeavors, and he was really committed to his personal health, philanthropic. And he expressed to me that even he struggled sometimes to just dedicate time uninterrupted to read. It was one of our favorite passions, something to talk about. But what he meant and what he communicated was reading just for joy, just making sure that there's crafted time in a busy schedule, that it wasn't for a business purpose or to be productive later in the day or for a meeting. It was just to be with reading. So I had this idea because we were always sort of, bouncing ideas off one another. And I got him an hourglass. I had it, I got it off of one of our great artistic websites. I don't know if I guess I'm able to mention things on a podcast, but I'm being conservative at the moment. So I got him a special hourglass. And it was filled to sift through the narrow opening in 30 minutes time. It was shipped from Australia. I found an artist in Australia who would create a wooden base and then inscribe at the bottom. It was a visual reminder for him, and he set it up and I hadn't seen it where he had set it up originally, but when I visited him next, he had set it up next to his sort of uh, lounger chair where he would read or take meetings or sit and enjoy his day. But it was sitting right there as a reminder for him. It was also a reminder to others, it turned out, that would maybe otherwise interrupt him while he looked like he was just sitting, maybe, and not actively doing something. And it was a simple gift of time preserved for this specific purpose. I had the wooden base inscribed with his name with an apostrophe S, time to read. And it was sort of in my own handwriting. I was able to send it in and it was inscribed into the wood. I thought it was well, he thought it was meaningful. I thought it would be a fun way to sort of celebrate the conversation that we had had and we're having on an ongoing basis. So I have a few hourglasses, and I might just get myself one in his memory, just like this with the 30 minutes, with the same purpose. And as a reminder, we all need reminders. I've mentioned in other episodes the post it note. I use a post it note as sort of a symbolic term for actual post-it notes, but also for ways that we remind ourselves, sort of like a string on your finger. If that analogy resonates with you, from my childhood, we used to say, tie a string on your finger to remember. I don't know that I ever did that, but reminders. And we all need reminders that we're works in progress and carving out time for what's important to us. Even if we're intellectually able to wrap our heads around this, we often need support and strategies and assistance to get there, right? So I hope to be that for you too. So with that in mind, for those of you who might be viewing this, and I will take a picture and actually post it on the podcast. I have a beautiful little 2-minute um, hourglass, and I remember getting this in New York City at this incredible Japanese shop with an artist that did a lot of different pottery. And they had brought these in from another artist in Japan, and they were specifically timed with these little metal beads. And I remember sort of falling in love with this 2-minute timer and just sort of watching the passage of time. Um, I've done this recently, sometimes on a busy, hectic day, just to sort of get a reality check on where our time has gone, what time it is before us. I'll just sort of flip this and almost get into a meditative trance. I almost did it for those of you just listening right now, losing my train of thought, but I'm back. On looking at the sands of this hourglass passing through and watching time go by, 2 minutes spent with this hourglass. So now we're going to have a mindful minute together to set the tone for this episode and actually measure time together. It's something that you can do certainly on your own as well. And I encourage you to do this maybe once a day, or if you feel like flustered and out of sorts, like you're behind on something, you may say, oh, I can't do that. I'm behind on things. But just to like take a pause and say, let me meditate or think about or sit still for 1 minute before re-engaging. First, we prepare. So when I do a mindful minute, I want to always verbally share with you, as I would in sort of a classroom setting or when presenting, prepare mentally and physically for what we're about to do. So imagine this first. This isn't the minute. I'm setting you up for it. Close your eyes right as we're doing this. Not if you're driving, by the way. I hope you didn't close your eyes. Otherwise, eyes stay open and you can still participate. And let's take a deep breath. Picture the 1,000 waking minutes that you have today as a collection of precious gems, or those coins I mentioned. Picture that each minute, each one of these is sort of unique, holding the potential for joy, for productivity, for relaxation, for chores, for everything. As you breathe in, visualize gathering these gems into a beautiful mosaic, perhaps, that represents your day. With each exhale, let go of a tension or worry. Now we're setting up our body. Do a quick body scan. If you feel any tight or tense areas, try to shake them out. We're not doing a full body scan right now, but just do a quick body check, physical, mental. As you do this, know that you have the power to shape your day with intention. Tell yourself that if you don't believe it quite yet. You have the power to shape your day with intention. Now open your eyes, and we're ready to explore how to make the most of life's currency, your time. Before we enter the minute together, I want you to take a moment to think about a recent experience that brought you joy, a laugh, or some form of comfort. What were you doing? Who are you with? And let that feeling sort of wash over you as we breathe together. And if you're not already wearing one, I encourage you to smile right now on purpose and keep that sort of feeling in your body, that thought in your mind as we go through this minute, this measured minute together. And by the way, smiling, and I hope that you smile at the joys that life brings you, but smiling even on purpose helps release endorphins that are the feel-good hormones that can help us feel better about our day. A brief aside, if you're not you can't capture that moment on demand. I don't remember a joyful moment, or you've had a hard couple days, and I hope that they get better if that's the case. I know some of us feel paralyzed in the moment when it's like, picture a joyful moment or a feeling. If you don't instantly remember one, I'll give you one. You can find that moment later and try this again. But for now, imagine yourself at the ocean's edge. So either your place of joy, that feeling, or at the ocean's edge, and picture the waves gently rolling in, softly creeping up the sand and then retreating back into the sea, only to come back up again. Hear that kind of soothing crackle that happens on the sand as the water meets the shore, and feel the rhythm of the waves as they flow in and out. As we breathe in, the wave comes in, and we visualize them coming in, or we hear them coming in, or we feel them coming in, and they're gathering energy. And as we exhale, they will be retreating into the sea. So we'll allow the rhythm to guide our breath, letting the ebb and flow bring you some calm and connection. So we get to do a little meditation at the same time as we measure time. Now, with your own moment of joy or comfort, or this image and sound of the waves, let's breathe and focus only on our breath and the image or sound that you have in yourself for 1 minute together. I'm going to start with the chime, and then I will end with a chime at the end of the 1 minute. Let's begin. Breathe into this minute, and breathe out. Breathe in and feel the waves coming up to the shore. Breathe out as you release your breath and the waves retreat. Breathe into your joy and breathe out. Feel time marching ahead in front of us. Let it linger a little longer. Breathe in, breathe out. And there you go. We just measured 1 minute together. I'm curious how that felt to you. Was it brief? Did it seem long? Was it easy? Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Did your mind wander? Did you get lost in thoughts? There's certainly no one right response here. And I'm always curious, honestly curious. One important part of a mindful minute like this, um, perhaps in this episode, or hit pause if it's hot on your mind, is to reflect. I invite you to take a moment to jot down any feelings that emerged. And then also, given that you're experiencing one of your 1,000 waking minutes today this way, write down how you plan to use some of your other waking minutes today that feel joyful, supportive, or comforting. What intentions will you set? So when we take a mindful minute, I will always encourage you then to reflect on it. Thank you for experiencing that with me. So typically in my episodes, I'll be sharing some research. Each time we'll have a topic. We'll talk about our 1,000 waking minutes, how this practice might be relevant and fit into your life, some practical tips how to do it, or do them, or experience these things. But I will typically and usually be sharing some research, the evidence, or scientific actual evidence and statistics, or the current thinking on the topic. And why that practice or behavior may be worth considering spending some of your precious waking minutes on, along with those tips and strategies that you might consider trying. But since this episode is more about the why in the name of the podcast, the what's up with the title, and why do I want to talk about this so much, it's a personal reflection for me. I love math and science, so the minutes of the day is factual. But instead of giving you science to back a title, I don't know that that exists per se. I wanted to share a couple minutes about something else that came to me as I was preparing for today, and that's for music. I love music so much. It frames so many parts of our lives, and it's something that is universal and brings us together as humans. I love music of many genres. I play a little piano. I love to sing. I'm a full-on amateur, but I do love to sing, and you'll hear me probably blurt something out, if not today, probably today, other times. as they fit or as they come to me. And I also played the oboe, of all things, from grade 5, much to the patience and pained ears at times of my family, but all the way through, I should say, college orchestra. I was in a woodwind quintet. So I developed my skill with the oboe. And I love the memories that I find when I'm listening to a song. I'm quick to smile, quick to move or dance. I'll run faster with the right music. And I will cry if a song hits my heart or brings back a memory and it enters my body. Music connects us as humans, as I mentioned, and that's what I really love about it. So while I was researching this episode and thinking about what I hope to share with you, I got to thinking and then playing and then asking others and listening and compiling some songs about time, about the minutes of our lives, about how time is portrayed by artists. And it took no time for me to come up with a list alongside some friends and colleagues of, they would have at least one instantly and often many more. I've come up with 17 that have hit me in various ways. I had to stop somewhere and get back to my own precious minutes of other things in a day. But I'd like to share with you some of the titles, see if some key lines resonate with you, maybe see what they might stir up with you. Maybe there's others that will instantly come to you that I don't have on this list. So first, of course, Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me. Time after time. This one just instantly comes to mind. What do you think about when you think about time? You think about Time After Time by Cyndi Lauper. Not inconsequentially, I mentioned that one first because my cousin on my husband's side actually co-wrote that song. Of course, that's something that we love every time that we hear about it and that we think of our family, not only about the catchiness of the song and memory. Time by Pink Floyd. The line, and you run to catch it, catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. And you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. Picturing the running after time and spending some of the minutes. How about the Green Day song? I think it's officially called Good Riddance, I found, but Time of Your Life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. And of course, the classic folk song, Time in a Bottle by Jim Croce. I could same time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do. Some other Clocks by Coldplay. One Moment in Time, which I will not even attempt to sing, but Give Me One Moment in Time by Whitney Houston. When I'm more than I thought I could be. Give me one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be. And followed up by another, If I Could Turn Back Time, Cher, which I should not also be attempting to emulate, but love that song. The Doobie Brothers, Minute by Minute. Do you remember the sort of rhythm of that one? But minute by minute by minute by minute, I keep holding on. I hope that you're being entertained by this because I'm a little verging on embarrassed, talking into the wide world, and I'm feeling pretty happy and joyful at the same time that I'm thinking of musical moments that have time engaged and memories are flooding back even as we speak. I love Time Is Love by Josh Turner, the country song. Time is love, gotta run, love to hang longer, but I got someone who waits. One of the great lines or lyrics in that song is, I only get so many minutes, don't want to spend them all on the clock. In the time that we spent talking, how many kisses have I lost? I was a big fan of Howard Jones back in the 80s, so Life in One Day by Howard Jones. Don't try to live your life in one day. Don't go speed your time away. That one. There's several by country singers like Kenny Chesney, Don't Blink. Brad Paisley has that letter to me, that beautiful story of like writing a letter to your 17-year-old self that he was inspired to write after a book that I think his wife was reading at the time. Something we'll talk about in a future episode, sort of writing letters to your future self. We'll come back to that. And 26 Cents by the Wilkinsons. Here's a penny for your thoughts. This is from a mother. Here's a penny for your thoughts, a quarter for the call, and all your mama's love. A penny for your thoughts, a quarter for the call, and all your mama's love. 26 Cents about being there and the time that you will be there. Through the Years by Kenny Rogers. One of my all-time favorites, Seasons of Love from Rent, which literally uses 525,600 minutes, 525,000 moments so dear. How do you measure? Measure a year. How about love? And then, of course, always good to end with the Rolling Stones. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. So those are a few, most of, I rolled through the 17. I've never done an official shared list, so this is my, embarrassing reveal here. I know that some of you are digital natives probably, or you're much more advanced than I. I don't even know if I can share it as a playlist per se, but in my show notes or certainly via email, I'd be happy to do that. I'll be researching that right after the episode, but I'm certainly willing to share if you'd like. And I'll certainly post the titles for you that I came up with and had fun sort of homing in on which I wanted to share today. I'd love, love, love to hear any that spring to your mind when you're thinking about music and time and the songs that matter in your lives. So in the last few minutes here of this episode, before I wrap for today, I would like to give some concrete instruction or a task, a little bit of an action item, perhaps I should call it, on how to prioritize or think about an action to-do list on how should we do something with this idea of 1,000 waking minutes based on what we talked about today in this episode. So how do we prioritize our activities and enhance well-being, like exercise, meditation, or nourishment, all those things? How do we prioritize those if we don't know how we already spend our waking minutes, or we're not sure how those 1,000 waking minutes actually pan out? So the task is to check your minutes, sort of do a self-audit, so to speak. This is a non-judgment forum. Absolutely. Check your minutes. Where are you spending them? What are the non-negotiables, like work or running kids to school, or things that you absolutely know take certain amounts of minutes from your day every day that you spend your minutes on? What's missing? And what do you want to make more room for? Which of those activities within those minutes are life enhancing? And which are life diminishing? We may not be able to just remove everything that's life diminishing, but we may be able to get to a better balance on that spreadsheet, so to speak, of more of the life enhancing ones. And then take 1,000 and start subtracting them out. Take a look, see where you dedicate the time, and then reflect on how you spend those by using various categories of your day. I'll put a reminder checklist up on my website that you can download and follow and also add to. You can get that at wendybazilian.com/timecheck. First, I would encourage you to look at them under the three broad categories I love my professional mantra, my personal mantra: eat well, move daily, be healthy. What are your commitments, your hobbies, your family, your work, and your self-care? Taking up your 1,000 waking minutes each day. So just to give you a few examples, under eat well, how many minutes in meal planning or preparation, the time spent already or time you'd like to spend on it? On eating, on actually eating, on being around the table or eating your meals during the day. On nutrition and learning or culinary, like learning a new recipe, or learning about different diets that you're interested in, or the foods to support your health or your family's health. Under move daily, moving and your active living both fall in. What is your dedicated time to exercise? What days? Do you have a routine, or do you need one or want one? What are your active living, just the everyday? What's the movement that you make? The stairs that you climb every day? Do you have a standing desk? Do you stretch? Do you walk or bike different places? Do you enjoy that? Include the outdoor activities that you might engage with, and as well as functional movement, the things that involve physical effort, but are like lifting the groceries and bringing things in from the car and picking up your kids, literally, if not, talking about picking them up at school in the car. And then be healthy. That's things like self-care and sleep, prioritizing a healthy sleep routine so you can maximize your waking minutes. Your mental health, that could include counseling and therapy and reading and all kinds of activities and meditation, things we'll talk about, and also growth. So think about our professional work, your professional work that might be paid professional work, as well as your creative pursuits that feel like they're meaningful to you. Think about your home and family. It sounds like a lot, but I'm giving you something to play with in your mind, the different categories. And I'll actually list them out in the show notes so that you have something, maybe a checklist of sorts to sort of scan, see what you covered there if you missed anything. And I may be missing something. I don't have a fully expansive list here. But your household chores, your errands, the mental and invisible load that a lot of us carry, the cognitive tasks about remembering appointments and managing the household schedule and inventory and repairs and thank you notes, all that stuff that we'll be talking about more on. Planning your family time. Think about social communication time. When does that happen? How important is that? Are you involved in your community with your friends? How do you engage with your neighborhood? And I hope that you have hobbies and recreation built in there too. So if you don't already, I'm going to encourage you to make a space for that to consider if you have waking minutes spent on hobbies and recreation. So these categories encompass a broad range of activities that reflect how we spend our 1,000 waking minutes every day. Hopefully these provide some practical areas for you. And if you just remember the three main pillars, that will get you a good distance toward your time audit on your 1,000 waking minutes. The eat well, the move daily, and the be healthy categories. Then we subtract from the 1,000 to see where we're spending our time. Again, I'll put this in the show notes and at wendybazilian.com/timecheck so that you can have sort of a tick list of things that may prompt your mind in thinking about how you spend your day. Remember, that's life's currency, those precious gems. As we wrap up every episode of 1,000 Waking Minutes, I'll be posing a question each time for you to think about. Something that hopefully helps us connect, reflect, and start making some small but meaningful changes in our daily lives. There are 1,000 waking minutes to live, and this question is meant to spark a little thought, maybe to percolate in your mind, or maybe even inspire a small step that you can start on today. This week, I'd love you to consider this question. What's the smallest change you could make in your daily routine that would have the biggest impact on how you feel at the end of your 1,000 waking minutes? Take a few moments to think about it, to reflect and decide if you can start small on something today or maybe tomorrow. If you feel inspired, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can message me or write in. I'm always eager to connect and learn from you and to make this a dialogue by way of a podcast that is broadcast outward. And to take this beyond our time today. Together, we can help make those small changes, and they do truly add up. And they make each of our waking minutes more meaningful in the end. And we can support each other and bolster each other and see the successes and help each other with the areas that we need to grow into or figure out and prioritize time for ahead. So we've talked about where the 1,000 Waking Minutes title came from, the minutes that had meaning, and hopefully they'll have meaning for you. We literally measured a minute together, and I made my attempt at bringing my drum, which I'll be working on getting that sound better for the listener. I hope you can hear it. Our chimes to start and end our minute together. We shared the time in a bottle and lots of the music around our memories and the music of our times that connect our time over the years that we live. And we'll continue to explore the different ways to optimize our well-being through this podcast. And the whys that I invite you to think about those 1,000 waking minutes, minute by minute. That's the one that's the earworm in my head. Minute by minute by minute by minute. I'll keep holding on. I know that's, sorry, Doobie Brothers. But the small changes that will start to make more joyful and well-lived days ahead. And I'd love to hear from you. Well, that's all for now. I'm Wendy Bazilian, and you've been listening to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I thank you for joining me today for some of your waking minutes. I'm truly grateful that we could share time together. And I hope you'll reach out and let me know your thoughts too, along with some of your own revelations, your challenges, and also ideas you'd like me to discuss in future episodes. Until next time, I wish you many waking minutes of joy and good health. Thank you for tuning in to 1,000 Waking Minutes. A huge thank you to our amazing collaborators, including our production and marketing teams, and Gabriela Escalante in particular. To the ultra-talented Beza for my theme music, my lifelong friend and artist, Pearl Price Photography and Design, to Daniel Ballantyne, Jen Nguyen, Joanna Powell, and of course my family, and everyone working tirelessly behind the scenes. And to you, our valued listeners, I so appreciate your support. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a comment, writing a review, and giving 1,000 Waking Minutes, that's us, a 5-star rating. And please hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Please follow and stay connected at wendybazilian.com. And don't forget to share with your friends. Your support helps us grow and bring you more great content. Until next time, find some simple opportunities to optimize those 1,000 waking minutes each day.
I'm saying yes